It's 8 a.m. on a remote dirt airstrip in southern Iran. Two massive rescue aircraft are sinking into the sand. They're not moving. Outside, Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces are closing in fast. Inside one of those planes sits a wounded colonel who was just pulled off the mountain. Hundreds of elite special operators stand ready, but two aircraft worth over $100 million each are going nowhere. The mission commander is staring at a problem no training manual ever prepared him for. He looks at the planes, checks the radar, glances at his watch, and makes the most expensive decision of his entire career. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what happened during the most intense 40 hours of this war. Not from a news report. From the inside. You'll feel what the man who was left alone in those mountains actually lived through. What the CIA did to protect him without him ever knowing. Why the rescue operation nearly turned into a complete disaster. And why the official story still doesn't quite add up. If you're new here, check the previous video on this channel, the full story of how Israel and Iran went from allies to bitter enemies. And the single operation on February 28th that changed everything. This video is a dramatic reconstruction based on verified reporting from CBS News, the New York Times, the Washington Post, along with official statements from the Pentagon and the Trump administration. The dialogue you'll hear is recreated to bring the moment to life, but every major fact is documented. To truly understand what happened on April 3rd, you need to know three critical things. First, we're now 5 weeks into this war. On February 28th, the United States and Israel launched Operation Furia Epica. Since that day, the region has been locked in brutal fighting. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow choke point through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows, has been shut down. Global fuel prices have skyrocketed. Second, just 2 days before the shootdown, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth stood in front of the cameras and declared with absolute confidence that the United States had total control of Iranian airspace. Total control. Third, on Friday, April 3rd, in less than 12 hours, Iran shot down an American F-15 Strike Eagle directly over its own territory. They hit the aircraft near the Strait of Hormuz. The pilot managed to nurse the damaged jet all the way into Kuwaiti airspace before ejecting and being rescued. But the mission also took out 2 Black Hawk helicopters that were supporting the search effort. Total control of the skies. That F-15E was carrying 2 crew members. The pilot in the front seat was rescued within hours of the shootdown. The man in the back seat vanished. That missing man is the heart of this story. Friday, April 3rd, 6:50 in the morning. You're sitting in the back seat of an F-15 Strike Eagle, flying high over southwestern Iran. You're the weapons systems officer, the guy in the rear cockpit. You and the pilot in front have flown together for years. This was supposed to be just another mission in a war that's already dragged on for 5 brutal weeks. Then everything changes in a heartbeat. You don't see it coming. Nobody does. The impact slams into the jet like a freight train. Every alarm in the cockpit screams at once. The pilot shouts something, but the words never finish. Ejection. You yank the handle. The seat rockets you out into the cold Iranian sky. Your spine takes most of the force, but your knee doesn't. You hit the ground hard in the rugged mountains of Kogalia, deep in southwest Iran, hostile territory. Perfect for survival, or disappearing forever. Right now, your pilot has landed several kilometers to the north. He'll be rescued within hours. You've vanished from every radar screen. Back in Tehran, the Revolutionary Guard has already launched a massive manhunt. The Iranian government is offering $60,000 for your head. Local nomadic tribes, armed with rifles to protect their herds, are also heading into the hills, hoping today is their lucky day. You're injured. Your leg still works, but every step sends pain shooting through your body. You can walk. You cannot run. In your survival vest you carry a pistol, a tracking beacon, an encrypted radio. And the cold knowledge that if anyone finds you before your own people do, there will be no negotiation. What you don't know is that by staying quiet and hidden, you've just become the most urgent problem facing the President of the United States. And at this very moment, while you're dragging yourself between rocks in the darkness, hundreds of people across 3 continents are already moving heaven and earth to reach a GPS coordinate you don't even realize you're broadcasting. You begin moving only at night. The first night is the hardest, not because the terrain is brutal, but because the adrenaline is still flooding your system, pushing you to make mistakes. You move too fast. You step wrong. Your injured leg reminds you it's there with every jolt of pain. You stop, breathe, and force yourself to slow down. The rules are simple, but they're held to follow when you're exhausted and alone. Move only when there's no moonlight or when clouds cover it. Listen before every step in open ground. Never use your flashlight. Never touch the radio unless it's a life or death emergency. The real problem is your flight suit. It wasn't designed for the freezing nights in these Iranian mountains. At this altitude, the cold isn't just uncomfortable, it's a tactical threat. It slows your mind long before you even realize it's happening. Sometime during that first night, someone helps you. You never see their faces clearly. You don't know if it was one person or several. You don't know whether they did it for money, for ideology, or simply because they found a wounded man in the dark and chose not to betray him. What you do know is that in this part of southwest Iran, there are communities that have distrusted Tehran for decades. That old resentment probably saved your life that night. Later reports would say you covered more than 100 kilometers on foot over 2 nights, injured, and likely with help. Mostly with help. The second day you spend completely still, hidden under a rocky overhang. You hear helicopters, several of them, searching the valleys. You have no idea whose they are. You don't move a single muscle. Not when they fly directly overhead. Not when the roar of the rotors fills the entire valley, and you have to control your breathing so it doesn't give you away. You wait until the sound fades, then wait a little longer. Sometime during the second night, you find what you've been searching for without even knowing it, a narrow crack in the rock face, more than 100 meters above sea level. Deep enough to hide you from view. Tight enough to trap your body heat. That's where you stay. The longest night comes on Saturday, just past midnight. You have no watch. You've been inside this crevice so long you're no longer sure if it's night, or if your eyes have simply stopped working properly. Your leg throbs, not sharp pain anymore. Just a constant heavy reminder that your body is reaching its limit, and you've been pushing it for over 30 hours. The beacon is still transmitting. That's the only thing you know for certain. Somewhere, someone can see you on a map. What you don't know is whether they can reach you in time. You key the radio once more, short, minimal, just enough to confirm you're still alive. Bravo. You wait. Then a reply comes, short, encrypted, but enough. They know exactly where you are. You close your eyes. Not to sleep. Just to conserve what little warmth remains in your body. Thousands of kilometers away, something very different is happening. President Trump has been in the Situation Room for hours. The same room where Obama watched the raid that killed bin Laden. This time the mission isn't to kill anyone. It's to bring someone home alive. The problem isn't finding you anymore. They already know where you are. The problem is clearing a path before the Revolutionary Guard reaches you first. That's when the CIA steps in. Their plan is so simple it almost sounds like it shouldn't work. One analyst leaks carefully crafted false information through Iran's own internal intelligence channels. The rumor is specific, too specific to ignore. They've already located the American airman. He's being extracted by ground convoy heading north. In the world of intelligence, the disinformation that works isn't the one that sounds possible. It's the one that feels urgent. This one feels urgent. The Revolutionary Guard immediately shifts resources northward. Patrols that were tightening the net around your position now chase a ghost convoy in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, at a base in the Gulf, hundreds of operators silently gear up. No one speaks. Everyone understands what's at stake. MQ-9 Reaper drones with thermal cameras have been circling your mountain for hours. Your exact location has just reached the Pentagon. Trump gives the order. Dozens of fighter jets launch at the same time to create an invisible aerial shield around your zone. Anything that gets too close will be eliminated. The window is narrow, and it's closing fast. Sunday. Dawn. You feel it first in your chest, not a sound yet, but a deep vibration. Something heavy is moving through the air, flying dangerously low and close. Rotors. The sky above your narrow crevice is beginning to lighten. Day is breaking. That was never part of the plan. But plans stopped mattering hours ago. The special operators have been climbing toward your position for over an hour under heavy fire. The Revolutionary Guard arrived sooner than expected. Gunfire is cracking across the southern slope. American attack jets are sweeping the flanks from above. One support helicopter just took a rocket hit. Forced landing, no casualties, but now they're down one bird. The entire operation has been running inside Iranian airspace for 7 straight hours. 7 hours. Then you hear something new. Not Iranian voices. Boots. Many boots crunching on dry rock. And then, a voice in clear English calling your last name. A name you haven't heard in 38 hours. You slowly raise your head, pistol still gripped tightly in your hand because your body hasn't accepted that it might be over. A man in full tactical gear, face painted black, looks straight at you. He lowers his weapon, gives a quick hand signal, and reaches out. Your injured leg buckles on the first step. 2 operators immediately grab you and support your weight. They move fast, too fast for what your body can handle, but no one has time to go slow. Down on the slope, the firefight continues. You reach a flat clearing. More men, more noise, more controlled chaos. The ramp of a helicopter drops open. You're helped inside. The moment the aircraft lifts off and the mountain falls away beneath you, your mind goes blank. The only thought that remains is simple. Iranian soil is no longer under your feet. But while you're being pulled to safety, something else is unfolding just a few kilometers away. 2 MC-130J Commando 2 aircraft have just touched down on an abandoned dirt airstrip in Isfahan province. The moment their wheels hit the ground, the nightmare begins. The runway looks solid, compacted dirt and sand on the surface, but underneath it's soft. The massive weight of the aircraft sinks the wheels several inches. Those few inches make acceleration impossible. Without acceleration, there is no takeoff. The mission commander stands with radar in one hand and watch in the other. On the radar, Revolutionary Guard units are moving toward the strip. Estimated time of arrival, minutes. On his watch, the minutes they don't have. He calls both pilots. The answer is the same from both cockpits. We cannot take off. Demolition charges are armed. Crews are ordered out. The countdown begins. At that exact moment, 3 additional aircraft are already on final approach. They must arrive before the guard reaches the strip, and before the charges detonate. They make it. When the explosives finally blow, the last helicopters are already lifting off with every operator safely aboard. Below them, on that lonely dirt strip in Isfahan, more than $200 million in American aircraft burn brightly against the Iranian dawn. But there's something almost no one mentions when this story gets told. When President Trump posted about the rescue on Truth's social late that Saturday night, he wrote 2 simple words. Sano y salvo. Safe and sound. Hours later, in a follow-up post, he changed it. Gravely wounded. 2 messages. Two completely different versions of the same man. That contradiction was never officially explained. Which means that while you were being lifted out of that mountain, someone in Washington was already deciding which version of you the world was allowed to see. Resolution and consequences. The American version is clear and clean. The two MC-130JS became stuck and were deliberately destroyed by U.S. forces to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. Over $200 million turned to ash. 3 additional aircraft completed the extraction. No American lives were lost. The Iranian version tells a very different story. They claim the entire rescue operation was a total failure. That they destroyed 2 Black Hawks, and that the extraction never happened the way Washington described it. Iran's military spokesman declared without hesitation. The so-called rescue operation was completely thwarted. The Speaker of the Iranian parliament even posted photos of the burned wreckage with a mocking message. If the United States achieves 3 more victories like this one, it will be completely bankrupt. Both sides agree on one undeniable fact: the burned aircraft are real. The photos exist. The charred remains still sit on that dirt strip in Isfahan. America says they blew them up themselves. Iran says they destroyed them in combat. Both can be partially right. What neither side talks about is the brutal decision that had to be made in real time, with the radar screaming and Revolutionary Guard forces closing in. And what almost no one mentions is that the true condition of that colonel remains unclear to this day. Safe and sound. Gravely wounded. 2 official messages. 2 versions. 1 man. His real name is still withheld. We don't know what he thought during those 38 hours. We don't know if the freezing cold, the injury, or the absolute silence of those Iranian mountains changed something inside him forever. We don't know if there was ever a moment when he believed he wasn't coming home. What we do know is what happened immediately after they pulled him out. President Trump issued a sharp ultimatum: open the Strait of Hormuz by Monday, or America would destroy power plants and bridges across Iran. Tuesday became the day of both the power station and the bridge, all in one strike. Open the strait, or live in hell. Iran responded by attacking energy infrastructure in Kuwait, Bahrain, and the Emirates. Israel unleashed strikes on more than 120 targets in just 24 hours. The strait remained closed, and Iran endured 37 straight days with 99% of its internet shut down, the longest blackout ever recorded in any country in modern history. 1 man crawled out of a crack in a mountain, and the war continued exactly as before. There's a pattern we've seen repeat in every major conflict we've covered on Politicus Global. The official story and the real story always diverge at the exact moment when someone made a decision that could never be undone. On April 3, 2026, that irreversible decision was made by a colonel when he pulled the ejection handle high above southern Iran. Everything that followed, the $200 million in flames, the CIA deception operation, 7 hours inside enemy airspace, the jets that never took off, and the operators who stormed an Iranian mountain under daylight fire, was the direct consequence of that single second. That is the real cost of a rescue mission in a war that nobody wants to call a war. It's not the airplanes. The true cost is that when the operation ends, the world remains just as broken as before. And the next day, you still have to fly again.